No friendliness, only discouragement. Today I am cycling mainly in a UNESCO World Heritage Site, Georgetown, Penang. In theory, the city's flat geography, high density within a compact size and popularity with tourists makes it ideal for getting around on bicycles. Yet, there's no infrastructure in place that encourages cycling, everything seems to discourage it. Let's start here where there isn't a bike box, but we'll get back to this later. I also must wait 2 minutes for the traffic lights with loud cars zooming past and there is no traffic priority for cyclists. Next, I find myself cycling in the middle of the road in between 2 lanes of slow-moving traffic. There is a high chance of a crash if a car unexpectedly changes lane and overall is a stressful experience. I can't cycle on the left 2 lanes as they are slip lanes which will require me to cut across the 2 lanes to go straight at the junction. Essentially, I have 2 choices, and neither are good choices. Slip lanes purely exists to facilitate cars to turn without significantly reducing their speed and is an example of car-centric design. At this point of the video, you may be wondering why I don't cycle on the footpath instead. If I was forced to cycle on footpaths, I wouldn't cycle at all as their irregularities will exponentially increase my travel time. Critically, footpaths in Malaysia are not continuous. I would need to stop at every junction to prioritize cars and even might need to dismount from the bicycle and push if the footpath doesn't gradually slope down to the level of the road. There is also stroads like this one which doesn't have a footpath at all. The most left lane here is avoided by cars as certain sections are too narrow and street parked cars could just exit at any time. I essentially have the lane to myself which makes me wish that the lane was converted to a protected bike lane. We also have issues with cars not obeying the yellow boxes. If this was a street with traffic calming instead of a stroad, cars exiting from side streets could merge onto the main street more easily and wouldn't have to force their way out, which is what they are doing by encroaching onto the yellow box. Waterlogged potholes pose another serious issue. Also, there's no dedicated parking for bicycles. I must share with the motorcycles, or also known as a moped or scooter. Let's not forget that sometimes cars will park over these motorcycles' parking lots. Here a vehicle being loaded and an illegally parked cars is causing public bus service disruptions. And this orange painted area at the edges of the junctions are bike boxes. It is meant to be a space for bicycles to wait at junctions separated from cars and probably the most prominent cycling infrastructure in Malaysia. However, they are shared with motorcycles, reducing their effectiveness for cyclists. It's clear to say that cycling and cycling infrastructure are not priorities for the local city council or federal government. Malaysia is truly a car-dependent country, which is a shame. Cycling is a real solution to traffic congestion. Cycling contributes to healthier and more active lifestyles, helping to reduce the prevalence of obesity. Cycling produces zero emissions, helping to reduce air pollution and mitigate climate change. Cycling can promote social equity by providing an affordable mode of transportation, enabling access to opportunities for work, education, and recreation. Finally, it can boost local economies by increasing access to businesses and facilitating tourism. To the issues, here, there's a car patiently waiting for some pedestrians to cross. Unfortunately, as the car had already begun to turn into the street, my path forward is blocked. I once again am cycling in the middle of road, and this time it's because of one-way streets that was implemented to ease car congestion, another car-centric design. One-way streets can limit the directness of routes for cyclists and make trips longer and less convenient. Above us is an octopus bridge, an elaborate footbridge. Without it, pedestrians have no chance of crossing the stroads, and when it was closed for upgrading a few years back, a lack of alternatives introduced much inconvenience. Back to cycling. After turning right at the end, I am dumped into the middle of road where I need to cut across 2 lanes of traffic to be on the left side of road. Here in particular, vehicles from the left 2 lanes often are trying to cut 2 lanes of traffic towards the right to turn right into a street. High chance of conflict. Here I move onto the footpath so I can access a pedestrian crossing. These tactile paving helps the visually impaired. Malaysia has installed them for years, but for some reasons the ones here were poorly installed and now sunken, causing them to be waterlogged. Here I need to wait 30 seconds. It really should be just 10. My guess is they want to allow cars to pass for at least 30 seconds in between pedestrian crossings, which again is a car-centric design. This is another road where the most left lane here is avoided by cars as certain sections are too narrow and street parked cars could just exit at any time. Speaking of which, when a car is engaging with street parking, my progress is slowed down as I need to practice caution to avoid hitting the car exiting the street parking lot and traffic on the fast lane. Here, unless I want to spend 5 minutes at this intersection, I need to cross this first bit while it is still red. Then when it turns green here, I need to dash across, barely making it. A pedestrian will certainly have no opportunity to cross both this road and this street in the given duration. This street is noteworthy for having gone some urban redevelopment in recent times. The street was made narrower and the footpath made wider. The footpaths are separated from the road with a green belt. Good initiatives, but it abruptly ends. Here you can see the left side of the road has had a patchwork, and like all road patchworks, it's bumpy. I'll much rather cycle to the right of the patchwork, but then I'll be cycling in the middle of the left lane, which is something I still had to do as there was cars parked on the sidewalk and cars parked on the side of the street as well. Here the local city council squeezes 2 lanes into this narrow street, so I cycle through this hotel car park. And we're back to the junction where we started. There's no infrastructure in place that encourages cycling, everything seems to discourage it. No friendliness, only discouragement.